Hello, welcome to PCMag Live. I'm Dan Costa. He is Sasha Segan, and we've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about some of your reader questions. We're going to talk about top tech news of the day, and we're going to pull one cool thing off the shelf in the lab. Before we get to that, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Intel, which invites you to check out its new pop-up Intel Experience store in New York City. This unique, ever-changing environment provides an opportunity to get your hands on some of the latest Intel-based tablets and two-in-one devices. You can also test drive some of them in your home for a 24-hour period, enabling you to truly try before you buy. You can catch the Intel Experience Store at 262 Mott Street in Nolita. It is open now through January 25th. You can get more information at intel.com/stores. On to the big news of the day, and this is not a surprising story, but the magnitude of the story is surprising.
Whoa.
BlackBerry has announced that it has lost, in the last quarter, $4.4 billion.
Now, when we talk about this being a loss, we have to be a little careful because the company still has cash. That's because the loss is mostly in the shape of BlackBerry writing off all of the unsold BlackBerry 10 phones. Yeah. And it turns out there's billions of dollars of unsold BlackBerry 10 phones because they cannot sell those handsets literally to save their lives.
Because and also handsets, if you don't sell them in the first year, they depreciate so quickly, and there's no market for these devices. They built all these handsets, and they're just basically calling them all worthless.
Yeah.
And so they're they're in the process of restructuring. They haven't been able to find a buyer, but they think that under their new interim CEO, somehow Foxconn can save them.
Well, John Chen outlined a new plan, and the new plan is some different business units, a strong focus on enterprise and especially regulated industries, having Foxconn make their hardware instead of making the hardware in-house, a 5-year deal with Foxconn, and some new low-cost phones for their developing market clients. So in the developed world, in countries like this, we are probably only ever going to see BlackBerries again in places like the Department of Defense and law firms and industries that have these big corporate contracts and these strict regulatory needs.
Yeah. Also in the news, Yahoo is putting the tabs back into Yahoo Mail. You may have noticed that the Yahoo Mail, one of Yahoo's most successful products, millions and millions of users, 200 million users of Yahoo Mail.
100 million daily users, 280 million total users. That's amazing.
Huge, huge install base, but it's a very conservative install base. Yahoo made a bunch of changes a couple of weeks ago, and some of them went over well, some of them went over not so well, and now they're sort of giving users back some of the control they had before.
Well, it's a big challenge for Marissa Mayer to create this new Yahoo when you have this very entrenched, very conservative base on Yahoo Mail that they basically want to keep. You know, she's been moving so much of the company to this sort of Tumblr mindset. You know, I'm surprised the press releases aren't GIFs at this point, but the Yahoo Mail users are a different generation. And if she's trying to drag Yahoo in the future, is it going to leave this Yahoo Mail crowd behind?
Also in the news, I saw the headline as soon as I checked my feeds today. It was that the launch of the iPhone changed the direction of Android. And maybe this is inside baseball a little bit, but I mean, this was something that happened years and years ago. I think everybody kind of assumed that when the iPhone came out, competing products would adjust and accommodate themselves. Why is this such a big deal?
It's a big deal because it's not just bragging rights, it has legal implications too, okay? Apple and Google have been in this patent, copyright, legal proxy war for years, where Apple keeps on attacking makers of Android phones, saying that they're copying Apple's innovations, et cetera, and Google has been trying to stay out of the fray. So Google does not want to be seen as copying Apple in any way.
And it's very fundamental. It's really the invention of the slab phone. Who owns that basic UI, the all-touch interface, all the innovations that came with that slab phone that everybody's using now, both Android, for that matter, BlackBerry's using some of those same innovations too. These are causing lawsuits. And Apple is saying they own a lot of this intellectual property.
And so what we have is this guy, Fred Vogelstein, in The Atlantic, who just wrote a book about this Apple-Google war, saying that Google saw the launch of the iPhone and immediately threw out their prototype and said, we have to start all over. And then we have Diane Hackborn, who actually works for Google, worked on the initial Android product, and she said, no, it wasn't at all like that. We had 2 prototypes. The one which we threw out, we were probably going to throw out anyway. It was just the natural evolution of an interface.
Yeah, it's all so a lot of it's posturing and a lot of it's positioning for future patent battles. Very cool. Let's move on to a reader question. Today's question comes from Baxter. He asked via email, How can I tell if my information was stolen in the Target attack? Referring, of course, to that massive Target breach that happened over for the last couple of weeks.
So the most horrifying thing about this attack is, of course, you can't tell whether or not your credit card was stolen. All you can do is keep a close eye on your credit card receipts, make sure there are no fraudulent charges, maybe get a credit monitoring or reporting service or a service like LifeLock or All Clear ID. And if you're really paranoid and you don't want to have to worry about it, just cancel your credit cards and get ones with new numbers on them, and you won't be able to get any fraudulent charges because there is no way to know.
Yeah, there is no way to know, unfortunately, but definitely check your records. Some people have reported those charges have already started to happen.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's possible that the breach has been sewed up, and if you haven't had a problem yet, you never will. But definitely, as always, it's always a good idea to just be very careful about what goes onto your credit card and to check your receipts. Let's move on now. For one cool thing, we test thousands of products every year in the lab here in New York City. Every day, we take one thing off the shelf and show it to you live on air. Today, we actually sent Samara Lynn down to the Intel Experience store to check one thing off, to take one thing off one of their shelves. Samara, what do you have for us today?
Hi guys, yes, I'm back here at Intel's pop-up store here in downtown Manhattan. And the one cool thing of the day is this Dell XPS 18. Now this is a full-blown desktop PC, or as our lead desktop and laptop analyst Joel Santo Domingo calls it, a tablet on steroids. And that's because it has some pretty powerful specs, including the latest generation of Haswell processor. It's got Core i5. It has two USB 3.0 ports, has an SD card reader, and one thing I want to point out to you is the previous generation of all-in-ones, this desktop form factor, was this size. So now we have these all-in-one PCs that have shrunk down to a 5-pound device. So that's pretty impressive for a device that's this powerful. Something the folks at Intel showed us that was really cool is this is a perfect device also for head-to-head virtual gaming. So right on screen with the 18.4 size display. So come on down to 262 Mott Street. You can take this for a test drive for yourself. And Intel also has additional stores in Chicago and LA. So if you're in those cities, give them a visit. That's our one cool thing of the day, and back to you guys.
Thanks for that report, and that has been PCMag Live. I want to remind you to send us your questions via email, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram.
YouTube.
YouTube, absolutely. Leave comments in the section. We will answer them live on air. Thanks for tuning in.